Start time is 5:30. And we all stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey. For Cleveland. Roll call, Kevin Tuig is absent today, excuse absence, and we'll start over here.
Cindy Olsen.
Andy Mark.
Jim Rowe.
Joe David Luis, we're all here. And we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Brad had a chance to review it.
I make the motion unless anyone objects
Okay,
to approve the agenda.
all right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, the agenda has passed. And now we'll move on to invite any citizens that have any comments they'd like to speak in person and then online. Go ahead.
I forgot to ask you to, if it's not on tonight's agenda. So if they want to speak about something on tonight's agenda, they will have an opportunity later. So right now is comments for anything not on the agenda.
Okay, so anything that is not on the agenda, if there's any citizens in person or online that would like to speak. And in person, anybody online? Okay, thank you so much. And we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion, we approve the minutes.
Yeah, second.
I second.
All right, thank you. Andy, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, all right, it is passed. And the next thing we have is staff report from also. So Lisa, thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
So things happening in our community. I don't believe I spoke about it last time, so stop me if I've covered this, but a recent application is for a fuel station in front of Lake's Grocery. I didn't talk about this last time. Okay. It went through a SEPA review. So this is a permitted use. They don't have to go through any kind of special review, but they still have to go through a SEPA review. So that took place and they're in for building permits. With the SEPA review, we did receive a few comments. People expressed concerns over location of wetlands in relation to the project location, the proposed location, traffic congestion, and high water table with the underground tanks. And general concerns about groundwater and contamination. So the Department of Transportation reviewed their traffic report and they are not requiring any changes to State Route 902, or there's a kind of a street stub right there going into Lake. So not the intersection of Lake and 902, but the kind of where you go in for Brucci's, I believe. That's kind of a street stub. So they didn't request any improvements or changes to that intersection there. And then Department of Ecology reviewed the information and did not express any concerns over the plan, and they didn't ask for any additional information. During the pre-application stage, we did have an ecology representative visit the site to look at the wetland situation. So we do have a wetland that is hemmed in closest to 902. You have the entrance to the grocery, and then you have the driveway to the apartment. So between 902 and the driveway to the apartments, we do have a wetland in there, but it's an artificial buffer created by pavement. So the site is on the other side of that driveway, so it's not in the wetland or the buffer there. And then ecology looked at, we have likely wetlands along the railroad, but those are at a distance, even the project would even be outside of the buffer. So there's no critical area review that went through there. I know that people had questions about that. So That's just to let you know where we are. We're in building permit review stage at this point. The city council held a public hearing for the new land division language that you held a public hearing for last month, and they approved the first read of the ordinance, and we'll see that again this month for second read at city council. If you've not been by, there is a new pier and dock at Coney Island. The review for that actually happened a couple years ago here at Planning Commission. And along with shoreline, it also came with shoreline improvements. So if you're not familiar with the site, there's some large boulders along the waterfront. And we've been seeing erosion through there. And so that's been redone, hopefully in a manner that will help prevent erosion of that park. So the grass got a bit torn up during construction and we need a railing around the pier. But, and then the shoreline development review that happened a couple of years ago requires signage. So it requires a sign that says it's used for, the dock is meant for public use. And no trespassing signs that we'll put on the private fences on either side of the park for the residents. So it's clear to park users that they should stay in the park and not visit the neighbors. And then finally, a condition that required signage on either side of the park that says no parking in the trail, because that we have the multi-use trail passing through there, and sometimes we have issues with folks parking where they shouldn't be parking. Another condition of approval was that there is surveillance camera put up in that park, and that has been there for a little while. So that was installed a few months ago and is functioning in that location. So once all that's taken care of, we will get that park back open for public use. Any questions
Do they have a time frame when they're looking at that ETA?
for getting that open? No. Okay, that's all I have unless you have questions about other subjects.
No, I'm good. All right, thank you. We'll move on then to scheduled items, a periodic update on the Medical Lake Municipal Code for amendments regarding critical areas.
Yeah. Yes, you have a briefing sheet starting on page 6. So you can see this is the first meeting we're having with yourselves or with City Council regarding this topic. It is the last of our 10 amendment packages, so it's pretty exciting to be there. The state requires jurisdictions to identify and protect 5 categories of critical areas. Those are wetlands, frequently flooded areas, fish and wildlife habitat, geologically hazardous areas, and critical aquifer recharge areas, also known as CARAs for short. So our current critical areas ordinance, which is also known as Chapter 1710 in our municipal code, covers the first 3, the wetlands, flooded areas, and habitat. This chapter was updated using best available science at the time, including guidance from Departments of Ecology and Commerce. While we were going through the adoption process in late 2022, a new wetland guidebook was published by Ecology, but what was not taken into consideration because we were already in the adoption process. This took many months. Andy was present, but this was a many-month process. So we weren't interested in going back to the beginning of that to take into account the new guidelines. So we adopted at the time with the guidance we had. So we will be reviewing the existing code for the revised guidelines to see if we're still in conformance with best available science. Geologically hazardous areas had been part of the critical area ordinance in the past, but was not included in the revisions because we were struggling to identify what these geologically hazardous areas were in our city. So there's a variety of things listed for geologically hazardous, which includes seismic, volcano, mining, erosion, and landslides. So had to evaluate this for our city. And we're working on that. So at the time, back in 2022, we didn't have this information. all we had was a map and an old comprehensive plan that was to a scale that just was not usable, basically enforceable. So we've been working on that and we have gotten good information. And what it comes down to for Medical Lake is steeply sloping sites with highly erodible soils. So we've located those. They're generally limited to land between Medical Lake and West Medical Lake on state property. Some of it is forested land and some of it, looking at an aerial, is actually farmed. So I haven't been up to look at the site myself. I will in the future, but those are areas up there. And the only other area we have regarding so it's basically 15% slope or more with these highly erodible soils is up near water tower in Fox Ridge. So there's actually already houses located in that area. The water tower itself is not, it's just a little below that. If you're familiar with that area, there's a quite steep slope with a row of maybe four houses right there. So that did fall into that category and it has been developed. So now that we know what we're trying to protect, we will work on standards to protect those. The other critical area is the CARA, the aquifer, and this has never been part of our critical area ordinance or our municipal code. We don't know exactly where our aquifer is. There was the recent PFAS study that I was hoping would get us a little more information, but generally that stopped on the edge of the city, so I didn't get information within the city. So we don't have the exact location, and in addition, we have wells that are the city wells are located outside of our municipal boundary. So one thing about CARAs is you should be protecting your wellheads, except ours are in unincorporated Spokane County. So they need to be protected, but we cannot regulate land outside of our city. So we're depending on Spokane County to do that. The state does have wellheads in the city, so we'll be looking at that. Our challenge is protecting something we can't identify exactly. Our wells are pretty deep. But for this reason, we're taking the perspective that all water is connected and we should be protecting our groundwater, our wetlands, and our lakes, and we'll be looking at standards for erosion sediment control for one, and possibly others, but that's where we're at this point for critical areas. So it's important for us to base all of our decisions on best available science. Several state agencies provide information to us, and Spokane County, for their critical area update, they recently hired a consultant to provide a study on best available science from Spokane County, and we're in Spokane County, so we can also depend on that information. They didn't, of course, do anything super specific for Medical Lake, but they provided a lot of good general information for us. So that's where we're at on critical areas. Any questions or concern about that?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing. It's on the application of LU 2026-026 City Stormwater Swallows. So we're going to have a public hearing on that, and we will start time is 5:54. I'm sorry, 5:44. And I have a statement to read. This hearing will be conducted as follows. The planner will make a presentation, the applicant will speak, and then all those citizens wishing to speak will get a turn. The applicant may choose to respond to citizen comment. Finally, the planner will make a final statement and answer questions of the planning commission. So our first person to speak will be Elisa.
Thank you. Roxanne, could you bring up that presentation? So page 19 of our packet is where this starts. Okay, so we're considering land use application 2026-026 shoreline conditional use and variance review for the proposed City of Medical Lake storm water swales. In your packet and also on the screen, you'll see that there are 7 sites. As we have stormwater swales at 6 locations and 1 catch basin. The proposal stems from the desire to treat stormwater before entering the lake. Sites 2, 3, and 4, up at the top of the map on the north side, are existing stormwater discharge locations. And in addition to the existing oil water separators, the swales will provide another layer of filtration for the stormwater before it enters the lake. Sites 1 and 7 have swales that treat stormwater runoff from existing paved areas, and site 6 provides a catch basin to move stormwater from the parking area under path to under the path, the drive down to the boat launch into an existing wetland area. So next slide. So the first question I received was, what's a swale? So it was an assumption that I made that people know what it is just because I happen to know what it is. So this is a couple examples. I couldn't find an exact example of what you should be seeing in the future if this comes to fruition, but the top right photo is a swale that shows something similar, not for vegetation, but for having a flat bottom swale, which is what we'll be seeing in these. Ours are grass swales, so you won't see the other vegetation. The bottom left helps you see like the depression. A swale is basically just a depressed area in which stormwater can collect and filter through the soil. And there is a system to deal with overflow. So if it's not draining enough, there's always an overflow for it to leave the site, so you don't end up flooding the site. So that's just so you know what what a swale is, what we're talking about here. So I'm going to go through each one. You have the site plans in your packet, but just give a description. Everybody has different abilities to read plans. Before I start on each one, so you have 7 sites. In reality, only the first 4 are part of this review. They got all included together because a SEPA had to be done, and a SEPA needed to be done for all of them. So they're all together, but in reality, the first 4, because they are within 200 feet of the lake, of the edge of water, and because they are within the setback, all are requiring these reviews. The others are part of the same discussion, but not actually part of this review and decision. So this is site 1 in North End Park, and the 2 swales are dealing with stormwater that come off the existing paved area. You have parking and vehicle circulation there that currently, ultimately, the water is headed towards the lake because it's downhill that way, but these swales are to help clean that water before it gets to the lake. The next slide. This is Pepper Park. If you're familiar with Pepper Park is shrinking a bit. So these swales are really close to 4th Street. One is in the one that you see down in the bottom right corner. That one is in what you're going to think of more as Pepper Park. The one further up isn't what we think of as Pepper Park, at least at this point in time. But these are both dealing with existing stormwater discharges that are going into the lake that we're trying to help filter. This is on Martin Street right of way. So another area of current stormwater discharge. These each have oil water separators, but that's really the only cleaning of the stormwater before it gets to the lake. So this is a tiered swale system to clean out water as it goes downhill towards the lake. And the next, this is 3rd Street. Same idea, not tiered, but existing discharge. And this one's large, the largest, as far as these top four here. And it's because you have so much stormwater coming off of this area of town that we have a lot more to deal with. So these, I'm gonna let, when the applicant speaks, our city engineer, he can talk about how these function and what they look like and things like that. I'm just covering the basics. So, this one also located in, it's in a right of way. So the next slide, I just wanted, Medical Lake's kind of unique about, we have a lot of right of way that doesn't actually have streets in it. And we have land that is underwater. So this map demonstrates what is private property and what is public right of way. So the areas that are the orangey tan color, that's private property. Those are owned by people, potentially other entities, but that's private property. What is not highlighted is public right of way. So you can see we have right of way that does not have street improvements. You can see we have right of way that has private improvements. And you'll see this all over town. It's not unique to this area, but you can see driveways and yard things in folks' yard, you know, like we're grateful that the neighbors take care of these right of ways, like people mow them and sometimes even water them. So we're grateful for that, but they are public right of way and we have a need for swales. That's where it's going to end up going. So if we go to the next slide, it demonstrates where those swales are going. So just to help you picture, not knowing how much you can understand from those individual site plans, that's where these two swales will be located. I will point out at this time, the letter that was included in the packet from the gentleman, I believe it's 404 North Martin. He lives in the house that is sort of between the two swales, if you aren't familiar with the location. And you can see with the highlighted property, you can see his property really just touches on the corner the lake. So, you know, he or the family has been taking care of a greater area and using it for their yard, and that's been fine. But at this time, we have a need, and we're going to need to use this area.
Excuse me, could you speak up a little bit?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, no problem. So I was just describing the swales and the person who submitted the comments and where they live on that corner, and that their property, their private property, really just touches the lake on the corner.
Okay, I'm that person.
Good to meet you. Next slide, please. This is the swale that's by Ranking Field. It's in a right of way also, or at least partially in a right of way. This is not a fully improved right of way. It has a driveway leading to those houses that are in the southern part of the block. This one, it's not near the lake, but what's happening is stormwater currently is being discharged at Coney Island Park. And Coney Island Park is just not big enough to handle a swale and remain a park. And so the city is choosing to reroute stormwater to this location, a location that they can treat it and then send it to the lake. This, a little bit hard to tell, but this is the parking lot at the boat launch. And in this particular location, what we're dealing with is existing pavement that has stormwater runoff. And instead of creating a swale, it's a catch basin that's being proposed, which would send it under the road path, whatever you want to call it, down to the boat launch into an existing area that can accept water and ultimately makes it to the lake also. Next slide. The final slide, number 7, is in Waterfront Park. It's near the parking area, not near the water, once again, outside of the 200-foot mark, but dealing with that stormwater. So if you are familiar with the park, when you enter, the larger swale at the bottom of the screen is going to be to your left. And then the smaller swale in the top right of the screen is basically the outfield of the softball field there. Or not in it, but near it. So you have your staff report, which has all the approval criteria, and there's quite a few, and all the findings of fact to go with that. And I won't go through all of it, nor will I actually read all these criteria that are on the screen. Hopefully you've had the time to go through it. And if you have any questions about criteria or the findings, please let me know. But we have 2 reviews that are being done at the same time. So one is for the conditional use. So the reason we're doing, well, okay, next slide, please. So the variance review is the other, its own set of criteria. And the first one is because it's in the 200 feet, and the second one is because it's in the setback. And the setback is a little bit different. So North End Park it has a shoreline designation of Natural Conservancy. I might have that off. And that has a 65-foot setback. And then the rest of it is in a residential designation, and it has a 50-foot setback. So that's what we're dealing with here is we have those swales that are within those setbacks. Next slide, please. Also, the Shoreline Master Program, the purpose is no net loss of the ecological function of the lake. So ultimately, that's what we're after. That's what we're thinking about when we do all these reviews. Next slide. So conclusion. Stormwater swales are considered a utility in the Shoreline Master Program. So it's the same as, say, a gas line or electrical lines. It's considered a utility. Locating swales within 200 feet of the shoreline is what's requiring the conditional use review. Locating the swales in the setbacks require the variance review. The swales themselves are the mitigation to ensure no net loss to the ecological value of the lake. So even though we're creating something that's actually trying to help the lake. So staff recommends approval with conditions. There's a list of conditions with a lot more detail in your staff report, but generally substantial conformance with what's been submitted, so what you've reviewed. Final engineering needs to be done on these and reviewed by the city. Minimum necessary encroachment, right? So we already have these swales pretty darn close. We're going to try to keep them as far away as possible, knowing that the swales just have to be a certain size in order to treat the stormwater that will be heading their way. Construction controls, so things like sediment and erosion control. Vegetation and restoration, so anything that's disturbed will need to be revegetated. Public access and safety. So one thing about our Shoreline Master Program is that we're trying to preserve the ecological function of the lake, but we're also trying to keep public access. So what that condition says is the work should be as minimal time as possible so we don't impede public access to our lake. Operations and maintenance, operations and maintenance, that is the function of the swales over time, that they are maintained and operating correctly. And then other approvals refers to other agencies. So for instance, I just realized I have a slide maybe out of order about comments. It might be after this, so I apologize for out of order. But other approvals, the state Department of Ecology will have to approve this after the city approves it. So that's the process. It's just like when we did the dock, we had to get about 5 different permits from different agencies. So this is one more permit that will be needed in order to actually develop these swales. Let me see if I have one more slide. I do, it's out of order. Okay, so public comment that was received, I only received one comment from the public, which you had that in your packet, the email, concerns over size, function, and maintenance of proposed swales. And then agency comment I only received from Department of Ecology. So the first is concern best management practices for erosion and sediment control. Second, as I just mentioned, that they have to also approve it. And the third, is that there could be wetlands near the boat launch, that the catch basin might be in the buffer. And the swale next to Ranking Field, there's a concern that there could be, it could be located in the buffer of a wetland that's to the south of that. I received these comments yesterday, so I did not get to fully research these. However, as I mentioned earlier, this review is actually for sites 1 through 4. So the fact that we have wetlands that we need to be concerned about, this will be a separate review. So we will do some research, and the city has wetland specialist consultants, and we will bring him on board to investigate this. And if it turns out the swales at Ranking Field or the boat launch are in a buffer, then we will go through a critical area review for those, and you will see this again in the future. But we don't have to worry about it for this particular review. Okay. So
All right, before we open up for a citizen.
sorry.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say that next is applicant, and I think I forgot that on there.
Oh, okay, the applicant's gonna speak first.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
You start. Go for it. Yeah,
Scott Duncan, your Public Works Director, the city.
Tom Haggerty, E&H Engineering, your city engineer. We're representing the applicant, which is the city of Medical Lake. Of course, the lake's the lowest place in town, so all the stormwater wants to go there. And you have streets and roads and everything, all the constituents and junk and whatnot ends up heading towards the lake. The late 80s, 90s, late 80s, early 90s, oil water separators were put in due to the roads and the state highway going through town. And mainly because of LaFay, because the high traffic on LaFay and then the high traffic on 4th from the hospital. At the time, that was great technology. Everything was good. And since then, 10, 20 years after that, the Ecology came out with a stormwater manual, and Spokane adopted their own that conformed to, met or exceeded Ecology's manual, and that's called a stormwater, or Spokane Regional Stormwater Manual. And in that, the oil water separators do a good job just getting rid of the oil, but you have metals and volatile organic compounds and synthetic organic compounds and dissolved solids and whatnot that are in the water that the oil water separators do not catch. So they end up in your lake because the majority of your stormwater system collects right off of the road, is piped directly to the oil water separators, and then from there it overflows in a pipe to the lake. In the updated manual some 20 years ago, they included what's called basic treatment. Basic treatment would be the first step before an oil water separator gets installed. You would want basic treatment to take care of all of the other constituents that I talked about, because the science got better, we knew more about it, and basic treatment was just a better vehicle for taking all of the constituents out of the stormwater. So then Chad came along and he's your council member, and he kind of put a report together and recognized that we didn't have basic treatment for these discharges to the lake. We just had oil water separators, and some were just dispersion on the ground. And so he did a report and did some studying with it, and we talked about it and ended up putting an estimate together and kind of a scope of work, and got funding for it. So essentially the whole goal is to remove 90% of the constituents that come off of the roadway and end up in your lake. We want to remove 90% of that. And these facilities are called swales, more formally bioinfiltration swales, and they use the vegetative root mat, treatment soil, and plant uptake to collect, dissolve, eat up all of those constituents before the water seeps through those swales and then drains into a subsystem into the lake. So the water that comes out is extremely clean compared to what is going into the lake now. There was no order or anything that he called it, that you weren't forced to upgrade any of these facilities. If you were to go in and change anything related to do a project with the oil water separators or something like that, you would generally bring everything then up to code because you're making an improvement. But since there was no work in those areas, those oil water separators in the old system is pretty much grandfathered in until you make changes. Or ecology, presents us with some sort of finding and requires us to upgrade those facilities. So there was a need to, again, the city had a need to remove those constituents. We've designed facilities to do that. They are the minimally viable alternatives that are possible with the space that we have in those locations. These swales, it can continue to be used as the land is being used now. It's essentially a depression. Because of the swales have to be flat, right, on the bottom, so that all of the water, the storm water, infiltrates evenly. And we have a 12-inch treatment soil layer, grass or dryland grass on top, to help the uptake of the constituents, and then an under drain system so that you don't want water ponding and causing other problems and other species of plants and whatnot to grow like a wetland, because these aren't wetlands. They're well out of the cattails that are there along the shoreline. And the areas currently, they dry up and get bone dry during the summer. And the swales have to, with each storm, they have to drain within 72 hours. And these are designed to do that. We did have geotechnical investigations, determined infiltration rates. They're all satisfactory for the bioinfiltration swales. And so that's where we are, and that's where you have the layouts that you do. Is they have to be sized based on what stormwater is coming in. So that's why you see the various sizes of them. There's actually calculations that we take what's called pollutant generating impervious surfaces, and we calculate how much area of treatment would be required. So that's what determines how big the swales have to be. Want to pop in?
Are there any questions on the size of the swales or?
I just wanted to know how deep are these swales gonna be?
Okay, sure. The maximum water depth that can be in them is 6 inches. So the Martin swales are 6 inches each step. That's the stepped one. Those are each 6 inches. Well, the Duras is 8 inches, but we have an overflow to a catch basin that's 6 inches. So the maximum water depth in those would be 6 inches. The one on 3rd Street, at the west end, there's a little bit of fill there, but it is again 8 inches deep. And then as you go back, because it has to be flat, of course, we have to pull more material out. So it's 2 to 3 feet deep at the east end. Okay. From the existing ground.
And that's it for your briefing. Yes, yeah.
What's that?
Was that it for your informational briefing?
Yeah.
All right, we'll have a chance for us to ask questions.
Sorry.
That's fine. So, well, before we open it up for the citizens to have any comments or questions, I have a statement I'd like to read about how we're going to follow this process. The following rules are intended to promote an orderly system of holding a public hearing. Give every person an opportunity to be heard and to ensure that no individual is embarrassed by exercising his or her right of free speech. All comments by members of the public shall be made from the podium. Any individuals making comments shall first give their name and state if they are a resident of Medical Lake. No comments shall be made from any other location. Anyone making out of order comments shall be subject to removal from the hearing or from the meeting. There will be no demonstrations during or at the conclusion of anyone's presentation. Each person will have 5 minutes to speak. And at the end of the 5 minutes, the speaker must join the audience and allow the next speaker their turn. So thank you. I don't have the list of anybody, but who has that list?
It's still.
So our first person is Scott and Betsy
Niche.
Nisha.
Yeah, I have questions for you, Tom. Where's Scott and Betsy Nisha?
You have to go to the podium, please. And then 5 minutes will start.
5 minutes, okay. I don't know if I can get through all this in 5 minutes. Tell me the depths of the swales again, first on Martin Street. There's 3 tiers,
Yeah, 3 tiers,
then they are all 3 of those 2 inches,
8 inches,
they're 8 inches.
8 inch deep of dirt. But of course, they're gonna be flat, so we have to slope
Right,
up. So on the east side, which is adjacent to the asphalt there, that's a 2.5 to 1 slope,
right,
which is about like that or so.
right. And I see it's substantial, but there's quite an elevation change.
Right, yeah.
I've fallen down that a number of times.
Yeah.
So I know it well. Okay, so each one of the 3 is 8 inches,
Yes.
okay,
Excuse me, the top 2 are 6 inches because they cascade to the bottom ones. The
okay,
bottom one is 8 inches with a maximum water depth of 6 inches.
okay. And then the third street you're saying is gonna be 2 feet?
It's also 8 inches at the west end because it's flat. Then that elevation has to continue flat heading east. And so it gets a little deeper, 2 to 3 feet at the east end.
At the east end.
And on the
okay.
west end, there's actually a fill of about 8 inches or a foot.
So in your scale on the pictures that we show, 1 inch equals 50 feet.
Okay,
So 1/4 inch is 12.5 feet, correct?
probably on. I'm not
Okay,
seeing-
so and I'm just calling this out. So they're adjacent to the Seelock's property, south of their property. The cut shows is a good 1/4 of an inch, which means it's gonna be well, let's see, 1/4 of an inch is well, that can't be right. Okay, 2.5. So that means it's gonna be 4 feet deep.
Okay,
Okay, all right, I'm just asking for clarification. Is that
there should be contours on there
right?
with
Right.
elevation.
The side closest to the lake is actually going to be built up, correct?
Yes, yep,
Okay, because I know there's enough slope right there that as you get towards the north end, the north edge of that swale, that it's going to be a fairly substantial drop. So, okay. All right, we do have some concerns, some things I want to raise, and I'll go through this quickly. So we have lived there 20 years and we love the lake. We love where we live. I've lived in Spokane all my life and we love living in Medical Lake. We've enjoyed the lake every season, but we have seen it get worse and worse every year. The current algae bloom that's going on right now. I used to be able to dive off my dock and swim out. Now, if I were to do that, I'd come up looking like the creature from the Black Lagoon, all covered with seaweed. Because it's just horrible. You don't even want to go in it anymore. So being there, one of the concerns that we have is that, first of all, with lake level fluctuations, in that document I gave you, Scott, there's a page towards the back. There's that concrete block that's right in line with Martin Street. That's my benchmark. I look at that every year and that tells me what to do with my dock because my dock fluctuates with the water level. And when it gets too low, I don't want my water or my dock resting on the lake bottom. So I put cushions underneath my floats. Okay. So I watch that concrete block all the time. And then in the spring, when we see usually the runoff that we get with the snow, that water level comes up substantially where that block will be a good 6 inches underwater. And right now it's 18 inches out of the water. So, I mean, we're seeing a 24-inch swing in lake level. Okay. And we see that pretty much every spring where the level of the lake comes up And thank goodness the pump station got fixed and we don't see it go any higher than that. But even with that, what we see on our property on that length of shoreline there is that the water level comes up, and we have tried to protect the shoreline area back 10 feet. I put up a 16-inch fence to keep the geese out because we had a horrible geese problem when we first moved in there. And I've had to move that back 3 feet because our shoreline is being eroded. We get pummeled by waves when we get the wind. We've seen 70-mile-an-hour winds at our house there. And then also too, with the lake level coming up like it does, the ground in even through that 10-foot area and inside our goose fence, probably a good 6 feet back, gets all wet and mushy. And you can walk down there and you can tell that soil is saturated with water from the lake. And so our concern is that the swales are too close to that water's edge to that, and when we see that lake level come up in the spring, is that going to cause problems?
We can give them an extra 3 minutes.
I
Okay.
need to make-
Okay, so
Oh, I'm sorry. I need
All
to
right.
make a motion. Does someone make a motion to extend 3 minutes?
Make a motion to extend 3 minutes.
Second.
extra 3 minutes.
Any
All right,
discussion?
thank you. I appreciate
All
that.
those in
So
favor?
So maybe we should have a conversation at another time. I got a lot to go through here. I'm sorry. So water level, potential flooding. We see that pretty much every year. Shoreline erosion, like I said, I have markers on my shoreline and they were well back into the weed area, the cattails and such. They're now pretty much out in open water because we see our shoreline continually being eaten away. And granted, it might take a period of time, but what happens 10 years from now when those swales are there and the shoreline has been eaten back even further? It's getting close to the point where I'm going to have to move that fence again. The location of the swale, the 3rd Street swale, is there really that much water coming into the area that's going to require a swale that size? It's 4,600 square feet.
Yeah.
And we see that regularly?
Yeah, you don't see it because it's all underwater.
Right, it's coming through the pipe as Scott had described to me.
It
Okay,
drains everything from James down to Barker and up of Barker and then portions of the school.
okay.
Along with Fourth.
Is the report showing the amount of runoff? Is that available?
I'm working on a hydraulic memo that has all the design counts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The swales, as they capture the pollutants, okay, and you say they dissolve. Can they get to the
It
point?
depends on the constituent.
Okay, can they accumulate over
Yes.
years?
Yep.
And then
So-
what happens?
So with that comes an O&M portion of the project on the back end that says the city every 5 years goes and digs. If it starts to get black soil, you can tell by the different colors of the top of the soils. So in time, there is a maintenance requirement to strip the top,
Okay.
3 to 4 inches and replace it.
So if we continued to live there for another 10 years, every 5 years, that would get torn up all over again.
Not torn up, just checked,
Okay,
just checked.
okay,
When you get to about 4 to 6 inches of depth of where you can see that the life of the treatment soil is gone. And then
Okay.
that gets taken up. Place. Which is probably more along the lines of a 25.
all right,
But it depends on how much water comes in,
right,
how much extra stuff gets added to it.
right.
things like
We've
that.
probably seen lesser amounts come in this year because it's been so dry, I would imagine. What happens if the system doesn't perform as anticipated?
Well, it will. To a point, we've taken infiltration testing for the sites. And they're all within parameters that are far and above what our design needs to be. But just in case, we have an under drain that does collect the underground water and discharges it to the lake.
Okay,
Because one of the requirements is after the 6-month storm, the swale must drain all of the the treatment.
72
volume that
hours.
It has caught.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the 72-hour thing. I have one more question and it's quick.
We're out of time. I'm sorry.
One more? It's just a quick question. I just wanted to know who's gonna take care of the grass.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Is there anybody else? We only have one person signed up. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Sure.
And you are,
Yeah.
well, you can recognize yourself at the don't worry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I don't step out.
It's fine.
Sorry about that. Hello, my name is Chad Pritchard. I live on some of these maps and in Medical Lake. And did you need more information? I'm not using this thing.
That's it. You're
Okay.
a citizen and.
Yes, yes. Okay, so yeah, I live here and I remember looking at the water actually at the cement block and seeing this crazy stuff coming out because people were dumping material into some swales there on Staples Street. And this kind of started my whole like, well, maybe we should start thinking about bringing this up to standards. I also am a professional geologist. I teach geology at Eastern Washington University. I used to do a lot of stormwater design and installations with Buttinger and Associates. And so we came up with a little plan. Originally, it was just to go dig some holes because that's all I thought we'd do. We'd have people come out, and throw some seeds and had it all grassy. But then the state gave us $1 million, and I think Tom came in and he's doing what he can with these smaller areas. And it looks pretty neat to me. So I just wanted to voice an opinion. I know it's changed. I don't like change. Nobody likes change, but I think this is good for the lake. We also work on things like PFAS and caffeine and different things in drinking water, especially in the West Plains. And as a side note, if you want me to come talk about the PFAS project, I'd be more than happy to do that. So this is one way they'll actually clean it besides just the oil water separators. I appreciate the oil water separators are staying in there because they do a great job too. That's another thing. I am looking at this, the catchment basin, I think if you can't get away with it, I think if you just put a little like speed bump there, it would deviate the water probably too, and then good luck at North Park. You guys did geotech. That looks like shallow rock. That's yeah. Good luck. You gotta get Scott out there to actually just lift it. He's a big guy. Can do it.
Luckily the ADP in that area is not really enough to substantiate full treatment, basic treatment, but we're gonna put one in anyway.
I think that
And there's a problem right there with the vault that's sitting there. It's full of water all the time. So we're gonna regrade that,
okay.
repave it, and change a little bit of that.
well, that's cool. Yeah, because it's a whole parking lot right there in the lake, so it's cool to have something. Thank you.
Something, yeah, something.
No, I appreciate that for sure. And then just one last question, kind of as far as when you get super close to the water, we're going to keep a vegetative buffer there, right, in case there is some overflow or something. So we like the buffers that we have right now.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And I know, at my property we put up rocks and stuff, try to keep the shoreline. Not that I do that. Never mind. Public. Yeah. So thank you for what you're doing. I think this is I like the approach here, and I really appreciate the state funding most of it, and I hope we can figure out some funding to finish it up. And I have to chat about you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What you do.
Did we have someone else?
Yes, but I didn't sign up.
No, that's fine. Come on now.
Me to fill your form out?
No, you just,
Okay.
that's fine. Thank you. Just state your name and
Sure.
resident of the city.
My name's Steve Morrow. I live on Jefferson Street. I've lived in Medical Lake quite a while. I've been to this meeting once before when they had the issue with the dock down at Coney Island area. At least wondering. I just had a couple generic questions. The bottom elevation of the swales, is it higher or lower than the level of the lake?
Higher. By about 2-3 feet.
Okay. And the pipes that are gonna be draining out are gonna basically feed into the lake gradually or dissipate the water that's in the swale.
We are not getting into the lake itself at all. We are gonna use the existing piping that's already running into the lake. So we're gonna intercept that up on the shore, and the overflow from those swales will drop into a catch basin and then into that pipe and go into the lake. So we're going to reuse nothing will change from like 10 feet from the water line out into the lake. We're not touching any of that.
Okay, the other question I had was, I'm familiar with the geese. I live on the lake. And you've created a swimming pool for the geese. So I'm assuming there's no fencing. I didn't see the exhibits here. I saw them out in the field. There's no fencing around to keep wildlife out.
No, there's no fencing for it. That's one of the things with the drainage rate or infiltration rate.
Mhm,
So water come in
mhm.
and, during frog junkers, there will be a lake there.
Right,
But it will drain within 72 hours. So,
and as includes even in the winter season when the ice melts down.
if you have frozen ground
Mhm,
and it's still thawing on top, the ground, of course, will not infiltrate.
mhm.
So in those instances, you will have 6 inches of water
Okay,
because it'll hit the catch basins at that point and drain
The overflow.
okay,
the over.
okay. That was my generic question, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in? Okay, do we have anybody online? No, all right. Okay, next we'll have this, Elisa, did you have? Open to you to speak. If you have anything?
Yeah, I have no further except to say that your decision needs to be based on the approval criteria. That is in the staff report. So as always, your options are to approve as is, to approve with changes, or to deny. And if you can also ask the applicant if they have any additional questions or comments, and then I can take any questions.
So we'll first then open to the commissioners if they have questions. Start with Cindy.
I don't have any questions, but I would like to say that I appreciate residents who are willing to maintain areas of the city and keep them bold, keep them presentable and be concerned about them. I also appreciate that the city is taking the steps now to do what you called step 1, when we already have step 2 in place. It seems very prudent to me to do that, and I appreciate that because I do get that is the best way to do what we're talking about doing. So, thank you.
Andy? Jim?
They answered my questions. I'm good.
I had a couple what's your name again, sir?
Tom Haggerty.
Tom, so you mentioned that about every 5 years you'll assess the area for like maintenance and upkeep, like a PM type of schedule, is that correct?
Yes.
And what's the life expectancy of them if they ever had to have any kind of a renovation?
About 20 to 25 years, about every 25 years, depending on the constituent loading, of course. They would need to come in and strip 4 to 6 inches off just the bottom of the swale.
Okay,
Replace that and reseed it.
okay. And what would be the impact if we didn't do this?
Excuse me, can I have you come up here? Sorry.
All right. I
If
mean,
it wasn't maintained,
yeah, well, we don't.
then you'd be in the same exact position the city of Spokane is with all their swales. It's oftentimes they don't get maintained, but they do last an awful long time. What happens is, and it's mainly oil and water. So, or excuse me, it's mainly the oil that gets trapped in the swales. So if you dig up a swale that's been in Spokane for 20 years, you'll see about 2, 3, 4 inches of oil, dark. It'll be black treatment
From
soil.
an ecological standpoint, I
Mhm.
read that in some of the information that the oxygen level in the lake was very bad and it would continue to deteriorate if we don't do anything. Allowing,
No, I don't see that having much to do with the stormwater
Okay.
treatment with the infiltration swales. That's more your aerators.
okay, but would it have a severe impact on the condition of the lake if we don't do anything?
No, I do not believe so. I still think that even a 50-year-old swale that hasn't had any O&M to it is better treatment than just the oil water separator.
All right, thank you.
I have a follow-up question, and so maybe it's for Scott. But it says that the city shall implement a long-term inspection and maintenance plan addressing it, so they're gonna inspect, I'm assuming that's like annually?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, currently with our storm system, every fall, we try to catch trees after they've dropped their leaves. We hit all of our storm system. We used to hire that done. But Big Sky Industrial with a Vector, we purchased our Vector since, and we do clean our storms. A lot of times what I look for with these swales and in that swale as well, we look for water in that catch basin. If there's water in the catch basin and no water in the swale, I know I've got something plugged or something's not right. We inspect to see what's happening there. Very, very rarely does that happen. I've been with the city 23 years, and there were 3 instances where we got a phone call of a rainbow sheen on the lake. This is when I first started. We had active gas station working up in a neighborhood, and something went wrong, and the constituents went into the lake. It didn't give us an opportunity to catch it. It overwhelmed that oil water separator, and we were out there with booms that sucked up oil and not water. So these swales will protect against that. They'll give us a chance to catch that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Seems like appropriate due diligence.
Sure.
Okay, I just want to say, you know, I recognize the comments from our citizens here, and I mean, change is inevitable, and having encroachment on your property or near is understandable. I mean, where I live, I've seen it happen. There were no houses, now there's more houses. But I also see this as a benefit to the community and for the longevity of the community as we move forward. So I have to look at, you know, what are the trade-offs as far as the health of the city, the lake. We are Medical Lake and we're known for our lake. And I have family that go swim in that lake every summer in spring and fall, so as well as I do at times. So I thank you for your work, and thank everybody for coming and airing their views and their comments. So I wanted to say, Elisa, do you have anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, we will close. Want to make sure, Jim,
I'm
you
good.
good? Andy, okay. We will close the hearing at 6:32. And our next item is to ask for a motion for a discussion on this application. And if we want to go with, in your agenda, in your packet, we have a couple of options. One, to approve the proposal with the conditions, or option 2 or 3.
I'll make a motion for option 1 that we approve with conditions as presented in the staff report.
Have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor for option 1, approve of the proposal with the conditions as presented to the staff report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none opposed, so it has passed. Okay, passed as approved with the conditions presented in the staff report. We have another public hearing. Oh, yeah, yeah, if nobody want, the audience is welcome to stay, or may leave if you're not in regards to what? The next public hearing is a Pure Act update to the comprehensive plan. This is Medical League Comprehensive Plan 2026. Free to stay or free to leave? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Being free time. Thank you. So this is a public hearing for considering the Medical Lake Comprehensive Plan 2026, starting at 6:34. And the rules that I wrote previously for citizens that wish to speak in person or online still apply. And now here's from Elisa.
I just realized I come ill prepared because the staff report was in the previous packet. So I hope all of you have it with you in the email, but I did not bring that with me.
The amended draft, yeah.
So the draft, but also the staff report.
Last month.
Last month.
Yeah, I have last month's.
Yeah.
I have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you are considering our new comprehensive plan to replace our existing comprehensive plan. So we have on the table the medical aid comprehensive plan 2046. And we currently have a comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2019 that had not been changed a lot over time. And this comprehensive plan, which we have been through a lot to get to this point with public input, with our steering committee, with yourselves, with our city council, we have created a comprehensive plan that we believe reflects the desires of our community. And last time I asked you to continue because we were waiting for Department of Commerce's comments. So they had sent some initial comments and they were supposed to give us more comments and then they didn't. And then they finally did. So they gave me some draft comments on Monday or Tuesday of this week. And that's how you got the new, the 4-page changes in your comprehensive plan. So you have the page 18, you have some new language regarding housing. And so our conversation with Commerce, I realized that we did this in stages, right? So we had part 1 come out and things moved along in part 2, part 3. So what I realized is that we hadn't really come back around on what had taken place over time. So while all this was happening, we were also considering all of these amendments to our municipal code, including zoning that includes a lot to do with housing. And so the paragraphs you see on page 18 that replaced a couple paragraphs that were there tries to summarize this, what has taken place. And you probably recognize through all the reports that I've given that there's a real push in our state right now to help with a housing deficit. And so there's so many ways that this is being addressed, and it's housing types, housing density, the emergency housing, the transitional housing, the ADUs. Like there's just so many things that we've gone through, and this tries to summarize that both for our needs and for what Department of Commerce is expecting to see in our comprehensive plan. They also made the recommendation, and I believe it was a good recommendation, to add goals to this section. So page 19, those are all new goals. That section did not have goals originally. There, of course, throughout the comp plan, there are some other housing related goals, but these are explicit to housing. Then we have on page 27, let me check. No,
28 and 29.
28, thank you. Everything got moved a page for the goals. And so this future land use map is kind of an oddity. It is an explicit state requirement. So when you look at the RCWs, this is really spelled out that we have to have this. And honestly, I didn't include it initially thinking our zoning map would suffice, but Commerce said no, that it doesn't suffice. And so I want to explain the difference between a land use map and a future land use map and a zoning map. So a future land use map is supposed to be more general when you're talking at comprehensive plan level about the future of the city. And the zoning map is like those specific standards for developing the city. The thing about our city is we've gotten down to 5 zones. And so it's a little bit funny to have a separate map that simplifies 5 zones. So we've simplified 5 zones down to 3 land uses, right? So in a bigger city, you might have, say, a commercial use, future use, and then you might have 6 commercial zones that fall under that. We just don't function that way. So we're fulfilling this requirement. It's not completely useless to us, but it is a little bit odd for us to have it. So what this shows is just simplified residential, commercial, and public facilities. In addition to that, we have to show the current urban growth boundary. So when you see to the north and the southwest, that's what we have right now. This has been in place for a while. The north one was slightly altered at some point. They originally were placed in the 90s. The north one was altered somewhat at some point down the road. It's hard to find good records on that, but this is what it looks like right now. We've made the request to the county, except unfortunately, the county is going through the same process as us at the same timeline. So they haven't finished. So they haven't essentially approved our request. And we don't know when they're going to approve or if they will for sure. So on this map, it's showing what we have right now. And therefore, if we stuck with this and the city decided that it was appropriate to annex, it also shows that zone that, or that land use that would be considered for that area. So north is residential and the southwest is public facilities. And I don't know if you remember how this came to be back in the 90s when the urban growth area was created. The state had plans for a new facility that never came to fruition. The state has no plans for anything down there at this point. So this is one of the reasons that we are asking to swap this land with the UGA proposal to the east with the Bible Camp property, is because there's no real potential for developing this area, especially with residential. I think that covers the future land use map. So for instance, if the county gets things finished and they accept our changes, then basically next year we come back through and amend this map to reflect what exists if it's all in place next year. So we're only allowed to amend our comprehensive plan once a year. So depending on the outcome of what's happening with the county, we potentially will do amendments next year to match what has happened at that level. The other on page 29, so it's a paragraph that's added in hopes of clarifying, one, that we have existing and we have proposed growth areas. And two is those areas that are in the urban growth area but not within the city, they do not have like a standard title. And so I always am a little unsure of how to refer to them, and I refer to them as expansion areas in this plan. And so that paragraph also helps to clarify when the word or term expansion area is used, what that refers to. So that is to clarify that. So those are the changes that came from Commerce. We did not get our final comments from them, but we had a discussion. So we're looking really good. If there's any future or any change that will happen between now and city council, which is next week, it's going to be quite minor. So I don't have that report in front of me, the staff report, but we always have to base decisions on the approval criteria. So you have the approval criteria, the findings, and the conclusion. Staff is recommending approval. And you can, or it's a recommendation of recommending approval, and you always have the opportunity to approve as is or make any recommendations for changes in order to send it forward. Or you can say you're not ready to approve and you'd like to see changes and require staff to go back and do those changes.
Do you have any questions?
No, okay, thank you very much.
You're one citizen that's
Oh, no, I
present.
appreciate that.
Is there anybody online?
Next year, listen to you guys.
Is anybody online? No? All right, open it up for any of the commissioners to answer any questions.
I have no further questions.
No further questions.
I'm lost.
Oh,
I don't, whatever you have, I don't have or I can't find it.
Oh, it was last month's
Last month's staff report.
staff report.
So you go to your agenda from last month and you keep going back. Couple pages back.
So what page am I looking at? I thought I looked at the pages she said and it doesn't correspond with,
This is last month.
okay.
What page does the staff
Actually,
report
that
start
was
on?
June's, because you guys talked about that one last month. And then I went through July's because I was not present. And highlighted what you guys had changed on. So that's June's, this is July's. So that one has the highlighted changes in there.
There you go.
Okay.
And that's the problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But the staff report, what,
They were
Okay.
minor things and things that we had discussed,
Yeah,
clarifications. And
oh, I mean, the staff report for the comprehensive plan. Was it,
Okay.
It's in there.
Alright.
It's page 6. Down at the bottom on the left-hand side of the page, which you don't have the binder. It follows this map, right after this map, which is 6.5 exhibit. This map. It's not very far into what you're looking at.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Well,
At least I'm on board now, so.
I apologize.
this is the one that's been near and dear to our heart.
yeah, we've been talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that concludes, or we can close nobody had any other questions, right? Okay, close it at 6:47. Yeah. And then our next item is have a recommendation for a motion to approve as is, or have any other changes?
I recommend we approve the proposal to the comprehensive plan as is.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
I second.
Okay, all right, any discussion? All right, so all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Aye, any opposed? Those opposed, so it is passed. Look at that. Hey, no, this one's been a long time coming. And we have one final public hearing. This public hearing is for the Medical Lake Municipal Code amendments regarding regarding impact fees, and our start time for that is 6:47. And Miss Elisa, the floor is yours again.
Okay, so starting page 28, we have the briefing sheet. You can see we are in step 4 of our 6-step process for the adoption process for amendments to our municipal code. We spoke about this in June, impact fees in general, the history of impact fees in Medical Lake. So as a reminder, impact fees are collected at building permit stage and are only paid once. To reiterate the history, we currently collect 3 types of impact fees: fire, parks, and schools. We will be discontinuing fire impact fees since it was originally created for our city fire department, which no longer exists. And Fire District 3 hasn't had the opportunity to look at new methodology. We will continue the school district fees as they are, with the expectation that the school district will be able to update the methodology next year. And then finally, we have park impact fees that we would like to update because they're in-house, and city staff has researched our options and has prepared a recommended methodology report, which is part of this, but I'm going to go over the staff report and the language for the code first. So starting on page 29, we have the staff report, which contains the new code language for a chapter to replace 1604. So currently we have in Title 16 4 chapters related to impact fees, and we're gonna get rid of 3 of those, retaining just the school district because it contains the methodology. So the general chapter will, the proposal is to replace it with the chapter 19190 impact fees. Once again, we're always moving everything into Title 19. This chapter has all of the basic information regarding how impact fees are created, collected, and used, but does not include the methodology or the actual fees. Staff is recommending that this information be adopted by resolution and not placed in the municipal code like it has been in the past. In the staff report, you'll also find the findings of fact for all the approval criteria. I won't go over each one, but I'll summarize. I'll summarize that these amendments modernize and consolidate the city's impact fee regulations, improve consistency with state law, and establish clear procedures for the collection and administration of impact fees associated with new development. Impact fees provide a fair method for allocating growth-related facility costs and promote the efficient provision of public services. So City Council would also like a recommendation on the methodology, and that starts on page 34 of your packet. I'll summarize the methodology using the 6 steps listed on page 35. It says methodology overview. First, we must determine where growth is likely to happen. And in Medical Lake, we have 3 areas likely to see significant growth. First is the area north of Fox Hollow. This includes the Nike site and also the UGA expansion area. Second, the area to the east owned by the Bible Camp, which is a UGA expansion area. This is, of course, is in the hopes that the county approves our proposal to swap the UGA area. The third is land to the east and west of Brooks Road as you exit the city to the north. There are other areas that experience growth, but to a lesser extent. The second step, estimate population increases based on the acreage and allowable density. Each of these areas can accommodate 400 plus units, which translates to a little over 1,000 people in each. Step 3 is to establish a level of park service to be maintained. So the draft comprehensive plan that you have just recommended for approval states that every household should be within a quarter mile of walking distance to a park. In addition, a neighborhood park should have some basic amenities like a play structure, covered area, seating, and vegetation. Next is to determine the land acquisition costs. This using data from Zillow on lots sold within the city limits over the last 3 years, it was determined that the average cost is $7.62 per square foot. And then determining the cost to build the park. So using vendor information, city staff determined providing the basic amenities would cost about $562,000. And adding those two together, I realized my notes ran out. Gotta look at the report. Adding those two together, we get $638,200. And so looking at 1,000 people per park, that turns into $638 per resident. So the next step is, how do we determine how to allocate this on a per resident when we do this through building permit? So this is building permit for any resident. So it's houses, plexes, townhomes, cottage housing, ADUs. Like, how do we figure that out? So there's typically 3 ways that these fees are allocated. One is by housing type. So currently ours is just single family and multifamily. So single family is obvious, multifamily is anything that's not single family. In our recently adopted zoning districts, we have a lot more housing types. But we don't have any data to determine like what household size would be for these. We don't have the data actually for what we have in town already. What we have from Office of Financial Management is an average household size for all residents within the, or all households within the city, which is 2.54. So that's the number that we're using for this calculation because it's the best data that we have. So another option, so either housing type, another option is size of house. So square footage, you have, breakup of up to certain square footage, 1 fee and so forth. So the third option, which is the option staff is recommending is to do per bedroom. So we know, of course, that not every bedroom has one person in it, but this is a good way to average households, right? So you could have a retired couple living in a 3-bedroom house, or you could have a family of 4 living in a 3-bedroom house that averages out to 1 person per bedroom. And you have to also think about the longevity of the house. The household is going to change over time, it's going to change over time. So we are looking at per bedroom as the most equitable way to apply this park impact fee. So you can see on page 39, the fee schedule that's being proposed. So you have the studio, 1 bedroom, 1 person, $638, and then it goes up from there, capping at 4 bedrooms. So even if a house had 5 or 6 bedrooms, it would still be capped at the $2,553. For group living, which can be a variety of housing types, it's per bedroom, so it doesn't have that 4-bedroom cap. It would still be per bedroom. Does anybody have any questions about that methodology?
The prior says we have not charged a fee for this, a park fee.
We
part of
do,
this.
and I was looking back at the staff report and I don't see it in there. So right now for single family, we charge $1,210.
Okay,
And for multifamily, it's $675. And so it doesn't matter what size, it's just by housing type.
gotcha.
Single and multi.
Single and multi is the
And
only
then we're gonna propose to move to bedrooms.
proposed bedrooms, yeah.
And the impact fee is once.
You pay it once at building permit. Now, a developer of a subdivision, we always want a park before the fee. So if a subdivision is being developed, we're gonna try to get that park area, and then basically there's a credit. So all the houses within that development would have a credit and they wouldn't pay the fee at building permit stage.
Because the developer will.
Because the developer has already paid it up front.
Okay,
And is this strictly just for new builds?
New builds, yeah.
So it doesn't affect renovations or?
No, if you look at the code language, it's in the staff report, it has exemptions. So
Yeah.
anything non-residential.
I saw it, I just wanted.
Yeah, alterations, expansions that don't increase the number of dwelling units, or replacement of structures that don't increase the number of dwelling units. For instance, all the houses that we lost to the Gray Fire, I guess, sorry, no new impact fees were paid for those, right? Because they were paid with the original house.
Okay.
I actually have a lot of questions,
Hey, Jim.
which shouldn't come as a surprise.
Okay, well, let's close out first if you're done with your, are you done?
You don't close the hearing yet.
Okay.
You do check to see if there's any citizen
Oh, I
comment.
forgot to ask, that's right.
No, sure, I could say something.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Hi, Chad Pritchard, Medical Lake resident. I really like the idea of upping potentially the fees for parks. I hate seeing all these developments, expansive developments with no parks, no trails, and people have to get in a car to go anywhere to do anything. So anything we can do to enhance parks, I think is great. While I was sitting there though, watched a really rapid response to the Tucker Prairie fire during this meeting. They put out a 3-acre fire
Fire District 3. So just as a resident, I might say, hey, could we potentially in any way keep that impact fee for the fire department in there? Just change to Fire District 3. I think that still has to be a pretty conservative amount of money for the Fire District 3 as itself. But just any kind of money, and it seems like it'd be easier to amend this than to actually change, like add a whole new impact fee. I could be wrong about that, and I don't need any answers. I was just putting that out as a resident as concerned. Thank you very much for your time.
Is there anybody on the Okay, all right, so next is we'll open it to this commissioners, got questions? Cindy?
No.
Jim? Sometimes some questions.
Well, I guess my big question, I will reserve and I'll talk to you about that later. And that would be, how do we're looking at these areas where we're gonna put 400 or 500 houses in. How does that get platted?
What's the process for
Yeah.
planning?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
you don't have to answer it now. We've been here a long time,
I
but
can answer it briefly.
okay.
I mean, it's a process that comes through the city, so anything that's more than 4 lots is a subdivision that would come through planning commission for recommendation and ultimately is the decision of city council. There's 2 steps, it's preliminary and final. So in between, they're either posting the money or they're building the infrastructure. So the streets, utilities, everything would be built by the developer, including a park if that was part of the development. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, so as I looked through this, and I thought a lot about this, I noticed that we're looking at these parks at 10,000 square feet, which is 100 by 100. And that's not very much. About the size of a lot of my house. And so if that's gonna service approximately 1,000 people, realizing they're all gonna be there at one time. I just thought for planning purposes, it would really be wise to make it a little bit bigger. My understanding from Elisa is that apparently we had a group that, what was it? You said they said the maximum would be an acre.
So this year, the city council adopted a new park master plan. And in the park master plan, you will find different types of parks, maybe 3 types. So the neighborhood park is the small park, up to an acre. It's like generally up to an acre. It's just trying to describe these. So it's not a hard line, but generally when you're talking about a neighborhood park, it's something that the people in the immediate vicinity use, not people from another part of town or out of town. It's meant for that. And then there's at least a couple other types of parks, and it's, you know, bigger, like ones with play fields, and then you get to like waterfront park where it's really, you know, certainly for the use of the whole city, if not the whole region.
So I just think it'd be wise to plan on a larger piece. We did 1 acre, that's still within the boundaries that the city council came up with. And for planning purposes, to me, it makes sense to go with 1 acre. And then in the future, if you need to reduce it for whatever reason, you can always do that. Just my thoughts.
And if you had to reduce it, would it require a variance to be approved by us? Once we set that minimum at 1 acre?
So it's the methodology we're looking at. So it's the methodology is having to choose some kind of system for coming up with a fee. Right. So it's not actually setting a minimum or maximum.
Okay.
But I think Jim's point is if it says 10,000, he's afraid people won't want to provide more than 10,000.
Mhm.
But it is a process. I mean, it's a legitimate point. But it is a process, right? It's a process you will see here in planning commission when we have land division. City council will also see that. So, you know, the city can look at it and say, you know, in this situation, you have, you know, 200 new homes and 10,000 square feet just isn't really enough to serve that, or something like, you know, it's not a strict this is for methodology. What we end up with in the end is a little bit different. Now, when they provide that park through a land division, we still have to use these numbers in order to give them the credit, but it's based on per square foot. So it's not that, they still get a credit. If they give us a whole acre, it's still for every square foot in that acre, not limited to the 10,000. So it's still, yeah.
Okay, so, but we're just talking about the fee for right now, correct?
The methodology. So it's not a specific part.
Yeah.
It's trying to estimate the impact of new residents on the park system.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, just to try to clarify to you what Elisa was saying is good. So this, the 10,000 square feet is really just a variable chosen to make the math easy to determine the value of that impact. What I would say is like in that plat process that you were asking about, that's where we'll really look at what that development specifically is and how, and that plat process will be held to the level of service standards that are defined in our comprehensive plan, which state that there'll be a park with this right kind of amenities for every resident within a quarter mile. So it could be that there's a multiple small park scenario or a bigger park central to the neighborhood development. But that'll all get sorted out in that plat process based on the level of service standard that's adopted. So we wouldn't recommend a park that is developed but reduces our level of service standard. That would all get caught and discussed through that process. But so this methodology is really just determining that price impact per development, and then that just is the math for the value of dollars. The hope is that a developer would always provide that park for us because they can do it for less than the city can. If they pay us the fee, we've got prevailing wage requirements and procurement requirements. It's a much more complicated process. There may not be property for us to buy in that area, right? So we'll make the preference that they develop and dedicate that land, but just to see, there's other ways for us to make sure that our level of service standard doesn't drop. But this is, again, just a variable for easy math to determine the impact.
Is that it for questions? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I guess, as long as we're not, I just don't want to see us get locked into 100 by 100. That's my big thing. And you're telling me we're not. Okay, good enough for me.
Okay, so our close time is 7:08. And then we will entertain, we have three options. As before, recommend approval of the proposed amendments to the city council, or recommend approval of modified amendments to the city council, or request staff to address concerns and return with a modified language. So,
Because it's not explicitly stated, when you make a motion, if you could also reference the methodology report.
oh, and the methodology, and include the methodology as listed. So, if anybody would like to make a motion for one of those three options?
As long as we don't have to totally restate it, yes.
Option
number one. But specifically noting that we are accepting the park impact fee methodology as well.
Okay, okay, thank you all. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, none opposed, so it is unanimously approved. Option one for methodology as well. And now we'll move on to item 8. Open any questions or comments from the commission board. We'll start with Jim.
No, I'm good.
Andy?
I just want to thank Elisa for checking on the noise levels in medical aid that she sends out. It's very strict. I had no idea. It's much more sweet than the whack. Good to know.
Cindy?
And I just want to thank you again for all the work on the comprehensive plan. That's a lot of work.
Here. Yes, it's been a long process. We've got that one done and moving on as we go through the process. So thank you so much for all your hard work and everybody,
Thanks for your
all these
patience.
fellow commissioners. We miss Kevin and everybody else that's here. We have any, are interested citizen?
I'll say thank you to you guys too. You guys are all great.
Well, then, we're ready to conclude. If I can get someone to make a motion to conclude the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to conclude our meeting.
All right, Andy, so second, Jim, any discussion? I hope not. All right, all those in favor?